Good morning, everybody. At least everyone who's here. I just noticed as I hit the button to go live, it says you can go live early. What do I mean early? I had it set for 10:30 p.m. 10:30 tonight. But needless to say, it's now. And hello, everyone, and welcome to this morning meditation sitting in my favorite little beautiful park here. And a little activity now. I've been here for a little bit, and when I got here, it was absolutely silent. This is far enough from all the major highways and everything and all kind of activity that it's just really, really quiet, except when a forest ranger drives by. So, welcome to you all. As people are joining, please say hello and and let me know where you are, and especially if this is the first time you're here, that's really great for me. Um, I have to say, since doing the retreat, and also since I started doing private sessions again, it's been such a joy to be able to get to actually meet people, look at their faces, talk to them, and have that genuinely intimate interchange. It's just really wonderful. So, as people are joining, um, the title "The I Principle" came to me as I was sitting down to schedule this for 10:30 this morning, and I have no idea why it came to me because it's not something that I talk about very often because it's very subtle. Uh, at the center of all of us, the center of your entire experience is the sense of I. We'll visit it uh, uh, exclusively. I mean, we'll visit it during the meditation, but it doesn't really take a formal meditation or anything of the like to simply recognize that there's this sense of I, the sense I am. It's not hard to get in touch with. It's nothing esoteric or out there in some way. It's it's nothing otherworldly. Just we all have the sense I am. In fact, we all have the same name. We all refer to ourselves as I. Nobody, after they get to a certain age, refers to themselves as, by their name in third person. It's always referring to yourself as I. There's this very subtle yet ever present sense of I. And we have all sorts of thoughts and ideas and concepts and theories, uh, both both materially scientific and spiritual and religious as to what that I is. But I'm not really interested in any of those. I'm I'm just simply interested in the experience of it, right? I mean, I could I could read book upon book upon book about trees, but it means it's nothing compared to actually standing here with a tree, feeling its energy, looking at its beauty, just the mystery and the wonder of it. So we don't need any theories about I. Don't need any concepts about I because you're experiencing it all the time. And there's way, way more to it than just a feeling. It's kind of the center of your universe, isn't it? Which is why I sometimes refer to it as the I principle. I mean, really think closely, think deeply about this. What would be experienced if you weren't here? If you, conscious of me, my words, I look like the trees behind me, If you weren't here, what would exist? Well, somebody could say, well, if you're not here, for you, nothing exists, but it still exists. And I say, how do you know? How would you know? We imagine, if I didn't exist, that this would all still be here. We even imagine it that the earth is here. I was born into it. I'll have a little life. I'll die out of it, right? And my soul or whatever goes somewhere. And a little bit later, it comes back and gets born into this earth. And we think this earth, the universe and everything, is a constant, that it's always here and that you come and go. And yet, how do you know it's always here? Your only actual experience is that things appear to you and they disappear from you. The only constant is you, the sense of I. I am the being. It's the only constant. We imagine that something disappears, it's still there, and I've gone somewhere. But that's just a particular pattern of belief. It's just an assumption about the way things are. I mean, really, really look closely. See if you can prove that to be true. We assume it to be true. But can you prove it to be true? Can you concretely, absolutely say that if I'm not conscious of it, it still exists? You can't. In non-dual inquiry, it's not necessary for us to get all these answers. It's enough for us to experience the doubt of our assumptions. In Buddhism, they actually refer to it as the great doubt. It says great doubt, great enlightenment. Small doubt, small enlightenment. No doubt, no enlightenment. In all of these meditations, really in absolutely everything I teach, my mission is to bring you to that place of great doubt, a doubt of absolutely everything, until you're left with the only thing you cannot doubt. And that is your own existence, the I principle. Because even before you can't doubt that because you're here, right? Even a doubt couldn't appear if you weren't here first. Your existence, whatever you may think that is, whatever thoughts or anything around it, the existence itself is undoubtable, indubious. It is beyond question. Now there can be thoughts, well, I didn't always exist and I'm not always going to exist. But those are just thoughts. Those are things you've never actually experienced. All you can say about before you were born is, I don't remember. Honestly, that's all you can say. You can't say with conviction, I didn't exist. And after the death of this body, all you can say is, I don't know. Right? I don't remember, I don't know. Doubt, great doubt. I actually don't know. So what do I know? Right now, in this moment, I am. And if you ponder the idea that I never ever experience anything but this moment, that all I ever experience is right now, Well, maybe then I always am. Even the always becomes irrelevant. It's simply I am. Without a beginning, without an end. I simply am. So let's all close our eyes now. And just kind of relax into your body. What I was doing during the, the satsang really that I was sharing before we started into the meditation was simply an inquiry approach to this discovery. And this is a meditative approach to the same discovery. In meditation, you're simply withdrawing your attention away from experience, away from thoughts, because they come and go. And since they come and go, and you don't, you couldn't, because if you came and went with the thoughts, you'd be gone. But you're always the one aware of those thoughts. There's something different about you. And the same is, of course, true for emotion and sensation. Any experience you have requires you to be there to have it. Every experience you have comes and goes, and yet you remain. Has there been any part of your life ever that you have not been there for? So then what are you? If you're not your thoughts, or your emotions, or your sensations, or any experience, and that of course would have to include associations, memories, all of your history, karma, the whole lot of it. What are you? Who is this I at the center? And when I ask a question like that in meditation or in inquiry, your mind will immediately start answering it. Well, I'm maybe your gender, your beliefs, or whatever. It'll be producing some kind of thought or image of you, but we've already left thought behind. Thought doesn't cut it. Thought is a transient thing that comes and goes, and you remain. So what are you? And notice even the way you approach it, because to ask the question without referring to thought, what do you refer to? The simple experience of yourself, without thought or emotion or sensation. See if you can just notice this subtle, ever-present sense of being. And this is the I, the true I. If you're new to this kind of an inquiry, you'll find your mind can get very active because it's struggling to find something to hold on to. But whatever it holds on to is going to be nothing but a thought that comes and goes. Your mind can't hold on to you. It can't do it. Your mind cannot know you, can't see you, can't detect you at all. Your mind is completely incapable of knowing you. So, whatever thought it comes up with is wrong. But now just put your attention on the very act of experiencing, the witnessing, the knowing itself. Not knowing as a thought, but just this direct, intimate knowing. You simply know that you are, right? Nobody told you. Nobody has to confirm it for you. You simply know that you are. Now, can you tell that knowing is a different kind of knowing than your mind? It's direct, it's absolute, it is without doubt. It is beyond even the greatest doubt. Now, what I want for you is for that word I to refer to this, to the true I, to the real you. When the mind uses the word I, it is always referring to some object, some concept, some memory, really. Name and form, nama rupa. But that I can't be you because it's just a thought. To find your lasting peace, that word I must come home to the true I, not to the imagined I, but the real I. It must return to its source, which Jesus referred to as the Father, and said, I go unto my Father. I, the sense I, returns back to its source. You could just as well say returns to the mother. Just a cultural prejudice. Nothing absolute about it. I return to the source. You don't return to the source, you are the source. The sense I, the thought I, leaves the mind and returns home. This is the story of the prodigal son. This is the story of the hero's journey. Coming home to you. Or you could put it in non-dual terms, consciousness awakening to itself. You already are everything that the mind has been seeking out there. It's actually just been seeking its own source. And that's you. The sense you. And this is something you can do Whenever you think of it during the day, notice it doesn't take long to just come into that sense of being. The practice, if I can use that term, is simply becoming adept at noticing where the word, sense I, is identified with thought, and just turning it back around and bringing it back to the genuine sense I, which is not a thought, actually transcends all thought. Now take a deep breath, and you'll actually come to notice as we begin to come back that this process of, or this function of the I identified with the mind and its content is always going on. And so there's never a moment when you can't notice it and return home. And the more you do it, the more often you'll remember to do it. And the less and less authority the ideas in the mind will have. And the more you'll be yourself, which is freedom. So take a deep breath and open your eyes when you're ready. Only a few people have said hello, so I'll say hello to Rosario, Jay. Finally a day off for you, Jay. Good. You've earned it. You've been working hard. Robbie in Romania. And Jay's in India, right, Jay? Right. Ava in Poland. And Yvette. Hi, Yvette. So good to see you. Where are you again, Yvette? I don't remember. I will stick around here for a touch. If anyone has a question, that would be, I'm happy to, or just a comment about the meditation. I'm happy to do that. Jay, oh, you're in California. Why did I think you were in India? I don't know. Vanyashi in Norway. Do you think bipolar can be healed? Absolutely, it can. My approach to healing, and again, whenever I talk like this, because I am a public figure, I have to put the little disclaimer on the screen. I am not a doctor. So I am not qualified to give medical advice. All I can do is speak to it from someone who has had experience in spiritual healing. And the first thing I would do to somebody who has it, right, is to bring them to a place where they drop the label, right? I mean, every set of symptoms that comes up in an individual are unique. It's never cut and dry, right? That's why we need the discernment of truly good doctors to be able to sense out, sniff out the subtleties. Because otherwise it's just, oh, he's got this bipolar. And the moment you say, I am bipolar, you will begin to exude those characteristics. You'll start thinking of yourself in those terms. You'll start acting it out. You'll actually give it a life that it may not actually have. What does that actually mean? Right? What it means is you take the label away, and what is your experience? I have this experience of extreme highs and extreme lows. I get very elated, right? Very excited, very ambitious, and then it's just depressed. I can't do anything. Everything just seems right. Now, don't label that. This is simply the experience you're having, right? And we don't really know why. Notice they don't cure bipolar, they just give you medicine to suppress the symptoms. Unfortunately, that's what most medicine does. And even more unfortunately, that's actually what the pharmaceutical companies want. They don't want a cure because then they can't make any money on it. They only want to be in the business of suppressing symptoms. So finding the true cause, which for me is energetic. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is my own personal opinion. Um, uh, I would start simply by allowing the person. Now notice, if the high is there or if the low is there, they come and go, they vacillate, but I'm always here. There's something else there that is aware of these fluctuations. The first thing is to bring your attention to that. Right? What happens is the high comes, then a little bit the fear of getting down, and that comes down and down, and then everything seems difficult and hard. And in both cases, there's either a grabbing onto it. I've got a high now. I've got to really hold on to it, or there's a resistance. There's a resistance to it. Oh, I don't want to be here. I got to get out of here. Right. Now, what if there was no attachment and no resistance, and you just felt it? Do you notice that there's a certain detachment that emerges automatically? It's like something is watching these fluctuations. But because I'm not trying to hold on to them or push them away, I've, I've, I've shifted the relationship with them. And I'm in a place of more power, even though they can be quite overwhelming feelings. But if I drop the relationship with them, what happens? And if I really drop it, and I regard my entire energy system with enormous compassion, rather than trying to get rid of a malady or a symptom, to become present to it and curious about it. Notice the different kind of space I've created. That space is the space in which genuine spiritual healing takes place. Because then the energy that has been doing this can begin to it's doing this and this because it can't do this. It can't flow. So it right? And it feels very extreme. And we don't want to let go of deep feelings, right? When we're grieving, we want to grieve. When we're ecstatic, we want to be ecstatic. We don't want to have some drug push us into this absolutely mediocre place in the middle where I don't actually experience life. It may be necessary for a while, right, in order to get some, but if you can get this kind of distance and detachment, right, to really become focused on healing, not on getting rid of something, but healing being restoring the natural flow of life, right, in its naturally harmonious way, right, then that's a completely different relationship with it, isn't it? It's loving, it's compassionate, it's safe towards your whole energy system and towards yourself. It's the most loving thing you can do for yourself. That's kind of a thumbnail of how I would approach any illness. Step one, drop the label, because the label comes with overhead, right? It's almost like saying, I'm a Catholic, right? The moment I'm a Catholic, I'm not any of those things. And boom, I have to be that, right? You know, I, all labels work that way. I don't like diagnoses, right? One of the reasons I loved the work of Carl Jung and why it was such a huge step forward beyond Freud is that he did that. right? Whereas Freud was just, he wanted it to be very scientific, right? He wanted his own pride. He wanted to be regarded as a scientist, not a head shrinker. Right? But Jung didn't label like that. He was much more attentive to the nuances and the subtleties and the different meanings things have. So he just didn't jump. Oh, this is it. It's this. It's this. That's modern medicine, right? It's even the book in psychological books. The DSM-5. Everything is broken down. Necessary to a certain degree, but it can really obscure the incredible subtlety and nuance that is life and that is you. So, hi from southern Spain, from Roberto. Hi, Roberto. Barbara, southern Spain. I've been to Alhambra and some places around there. Are you near there, Roberto? Um, Barbara in Sweden. John in Portugal. Hello, John. John in Portugal. Are you new? I don't remember a John in Portugal. I have an Ursula in Portugal. Jay's in California. Didn't know that. Why didn't I know that? Yvette in South Africa. Hi, Yvette in South Africa. Right. You're telling me where you are because I can't remember. Tasqua 2. Namaste to you. Jade. Gee, do you have experience? Have you experienced fatigue and just accept it for what it is because some conditioned responses come out with fatigue and I notice it and I just let it be and not make it a big deal? Yes, that's the best place to start, right? If it is something that continues and isn't just a temporary, see, a lot of things can pop up, they're temporary, and their minds go, oh my God, I've got chronic fatigue or something. And you don't, right? But the mind can then begin to create symptoms and things like that. So, but if it is something that's recurring, then you might want to be with it a little bit longer to just see if it's got some story to tell you. Because oftentimes fatigue is because when your nervous system is in a defensive posture, which most of ours are, that's the position we get into as children. Um, when that happens, it takes energy, right, and attention to be in fighting stance, to be defending yourself. Just like if something's chasing you, all the energy goes to getting away from it, right? If something's really threatening, creative stuff, higher stuff is shut down and all the energy goes into defense. So if there is a fatigue happening, right, it's likely that there's some kind of underlying energy that's still in a defensive posture that needs to be released. But I also am very practical about things like that. I go, watch your diet, how much sugar you're eating, how much processed food, are you getting good nourishment? There's a lot of things that can play into it. But I actually find that if I really just pay attention to the energy, whether it be some deep trauma that needs to be come up and release, or the body just needs more greens, it tends to just tell me. It tends to reveal itself, and then I do what I got to do. So I eat healthy, and hopefully, on the day I die, I won't be sick. I'll just die. That would be my preference. Roberto, I took part on a session in bioenergy today and was able to unblock some parts of my body that were stuck. Beautiful. Do you recommend this kind of therapy? As you can see, I'm working hard even on holidays. Of course, anything that works, I recommend. Right? Remember, my primary focus here, although healing happens, and a lot of stuff can happen along the way, my primary focus here is the discovery of who you really are. Okay? That discovery will have a profound impact on healing and that sort of stuff. But the body knows what it needs, right? So if somebody says, I need, bioenergy or tapping or whatever, do it, right? Do it for as long as it works. And if it doesn't work anymore, don't do it. Do it anymore. Um, but always remember, right? In my world, right? The number one thing is not just the release of the blocks, because all the blocks are a result of our essential ignorance of who we really are. Right? If you get to that, the rest will take care of itself. Um, Sometimes through very physical means, operations and things like that. Our Ramana Maharshi had an operation, right? Took anesthetic, a local anesthetic, as well. Um, so, however it works out for the body, it's not important anymore. You know who you are. So that's the only thing. My only caution of these things is use them for what they are, and realize you're always bigger than that. They serve you. You don't serve them. So anything that can bring you, some relief from something that's bugging you is valid. Just don't let go of the inquiry. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Robbie, what's your opinion on zodiacs? For me, in the past, I used to heavily identify with my birth sign and seek anything related to it. Now I've learned to not identify with it and let whatever happened be. Yes, that's the better way to do it. I do know some really world class astrologers, and it is uncanny, the kind of things that they can predict. But ones I know, one in particular, who's really quite well known, actually consulted with presidents of her country while in office. So I mean, uh, they took her advice. She A lot of it was her own intuition. She would use it, but there was her own intuition in it. And she herself would say that as long as you're not conscious, right? As long as you've yet to discover the the preeminence of consciousness over experience, which means you're still tied to your programmed responses and conditioning. You have not yet got a sense that I am not my conditioning. She said she can predict with almost perfect accuracy exactly the way your life is gone. It's written out in the chart. But if you become conscious, all bets are off. It's freedom or destiny, right? Destiny can be predicted until you become conscious. In which case, the whole flow of karma and the like and conditioning is now is no longer just flowing down the channel. Something new has come into it. Light has come onto this subject. So, and you could see as you pointed out, for a lot of people, they want to identify with their birth sign. What's underneath is I want to know who I am, right? I want to feel like I am somebody. And it's really good when I say, "Oh, I'm a Pisces, so I'm, emotional and creative and all sorts of things like that." But the moment I do that, I become that, right? Which means now I can't be what a Scorpio would be like, or something like that, right? Right? So whenever we take on an identity, right, we become it. And if you do that and you're not conscious, you don't know you're becoming that identity, right? You'll get stuck in it, and you'll be limited by it. And if that identity, some of those identities are not good, right? They can be quite cruel. They can be, I mean, politicians have an identity, right? And it makes them almost subhuman. The lack of empathy, the harshness, the greed, right? But that's their identity. This is who they are, and they're stuck in that. But it's not who they are. But it can happen to anybody. We all do it, right? We identify with our beliefs. We identify with our race. We identify with our gender. We identify with all sorts of things, right? We think that's who we are. When we think that's who we are, boom, that's who we become. Right? That's the way consciousness works. That's how it manifests. And when you're not conscious of that, you take on that role. You're stuck in that role, maybe for an entire lifetime. When you do become conscious, you realize it is just a role. I can step out. I'm no longer stuck as anyone. In fact, I am no longer anyone at all. I am absolutely no one that can take absolutely any form as needed by the moment. And I never get stuck in any of them. And that's freedom, isn't it? Right? So you're not your birth sign. And the moment you start realizing, consciousness begins to to dawn, you don't need any of that stuff anymore because it only defines your karmic life, the life that you aren't anymore. Because that which animated that life, which is you and consciousness, is no longer identified. So, boom, all of it's gone. None of it's needed. And none of it's true for you. Does that answer your question, Ravi? Jay, I'm Indian born in the US. My first exposure to spirituality when I was living in India from beautiful Kerala. I purely love India for its great spiritual wealth, as do we all. I mean, what I'm teaching you here came from there, right? It is the, right? It is very different spirit, very different energy than you see in the West, which had a different origin, and it's one of greed and violence and wrath and discrimination, prejudice, all sorts of horrible things. Genuine spirituality is India's gift, and it's still there. It's still very much alive. it's 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 just intertwined in life. But the whole non-dual thread, my whole basis of my teaching, is came from there. So I am forever indebted to it. Uh, Lakshmi, oh, I love that name. Gratitude for your great wisdom and kindness shared. Love from Sri Lanka. Beautiful, beautiful. Lakshmi, are you new or have I seen you before? Because I think I've not seen anybody from Sri Lanka before, but that is fantastic. I have to go, but I'm just going to wait till you say hi to me, John. Then I can go. Airplane to China can wait. John's on his way to China. Wow. Hello, John. Hi to you. You can get on your plane now, unless you already have because you really can't wait. Uh, Ava, dear Ava, SG, I can do such a short meditation many times a day, but somehow it's not as easy when listening to you. Thank you for patience with guiding us to the same truth over and over again. Yeah, I hope it doesn't get boring and repetitive. What are we doing, G? Exactly what we did yesterday. But it's always fresh, isn't it? It's amazing. It's always fresh. It's always new and beautiful. But drop that thought. It's not easy as when listening to you. Drop that thought. Okay? It's not true. Right? Your mind has got you convinced. Right? Right? So it just makes you do it by yourself. And what happens? You get a little distracted, and your mind says, see, it's not as easy. Right? Without that thought, what is it? All right, got distracted. So what? And you're right back. Right? Which is it's good when doing meditations uh, to have uh, the ritual around meditation isn't necessary. Okay, sitting on the cushion or wearing certain clothes or being in a certain space or lighting incense, it isn't necessary, but it's valuable, it's helpful. Why? Because if you find when you're just during the day you think of it and maybe you're sitting at your desk working, right, and you go into the meditation, right, but all this stuff is still around going, hey. One of the things that happens is that because I'm here, you're dedicated, you're present, and you're focusing on me. When that happens, get up from your desk, go sit somewhere else, go outside, right? Light a candle, light some incense. They're not necessary, but what you're doing is saying, you know what, this is a sacred time. I'm focused here. I am not taking calls, right? And drop that idea, it's not as easy. It's only a thought. If that thought never occurred to you, it's it's not as easy when I'm not listening to G. If it never occurred to you, would it be more or less easy? It's all thought, no truth. Yvette, I completely agree with you with that approach. It has helped and eased suffering. It helps that I can have a great guide no matter the chaos there can be because there is stillness to in not resisting. Yes, we can support ourselves better when there's less resistance, perhaps. Agree, so much more loving. I used to say, call it by its name in terms of the label, but now I see it as a guide to understanding the experiences. Now I think my words, call it by its name, means something else. Something else. I was speaking, but I wasn't listening. Very good, yes. And there's some metaphysical practices in the New Thought Church which, when trying to heal a disease or something, call it by name, as if it was like an entity or something like that. It, I never deny any of those things, right? They're all steps on the path, right? But my job is to bring you to the ultimate where none of those steps are needed anymore. And that's just being pure presence, right? So that you don't have to call it by name, because the moment you call it by name, you've already got an idea of what it is, which means you're not open to listening, right? You've already created a container in which you've defined the roles, right? I've got to get rid of this, rather than it's symptomatic. Okay, it's a symptom. What's going on underneath? I want to know that. That's the that's the whole thing behind holistic medicine and the like. What's actually going on? I want to know, and I can't know that just by prescribed ideas and just naming symptoms and things like that. Nor can I. Nor every individual is different, right? What a symptom means in one person is not necessarily what it means in somebody else. And the very same cause can have two different symptoms in two different people. So you can assume nothing, right? Be present, be open, have no agenda, have no intention, be nobody, right? And let the universe speak to you. Right? Whatever the malady is, it wants to heal. It doesn't like being stuck in the position it's in. It's in. The nervous system didn't decide to get into this shape because it wanted to or thought it was cool. It had to. It's reacting to an environment. The nervous system is completely responsive. It is a reflection of the inner environment. So create a different environment, you'll get a different reflection. It's it's mind-blowingly simple. It's so mind-blowingly simple. Thank you, Yvette. What a beautiful insight. I was speaking, but I wasn't listening. Perfect. I love it. Yes, that's what we do. That's self-help. I'll I'll tell them what to do. Right? I'm not listening. Right? How do you have a relationship with somebody if you just keep talking at them and you never listen? A relationship isn't going to last, right? Or it'll be abusive and self and dysfunctional. Honey in Iraq. Hello, honey. Oh, wonderful. I seem to do remember you, right? But ah, I love having people on satsang from the Middle East. I just absolutely love it, from that part of the world. It has such a deep and beautiful spiritual tradition. It's not appreciated by the West at all. Question Oz has a question for GP. Do you have any pointers for staying free and awake while engaged in very competitive work? Um, hmm. Well, being in competitive work is, first off, not a bad thing, right? I mean, it's part of life. It's what we do. So there's nothing wrong with it, first off, right? And if you're in competitive work, I don't know what it is that you're actually doing, but you know, all capitalist business is competitive by nature. It is not naturally collaborative. It's one of its flaws, right? It's one of its destructive flaws. It pits, it uses the language of warfare and that sort of thing. So if it's kind of a business thing, the idea that, oh, we're competing, we're going to do better, when it's been proven over and over again that collaboration works. Look at open source, right? 80% of the websites on the internet are open source, right? Free. Right? Collaboration, universal collaboration. It always it always does better. But I digress. Competition is just kind of a part of life, right? And in fact, it's been good. There's been a couple of times when I was doing computer systems. I remember one time in particular, I gave a presentation of the product we were working on to this group of people, and they actually uh, they actually diminished it because of a certain function it couldn't do. Right? There was something it couldn't do, a way in which I had to do things. Right? Now, the fact of the matter, at that time, nobody could do that. No one had ever done that before. Right? This is early in the days of HTML and JavaScript and all that kind of stuff. It had never been done before. Right? So I was a little bit nonplussed as to why they would do that. Right? When it had never been done before. But God damn it, 3 days later, I did it. I invented it, and it worked. And it actually was the only thing that could do that for about another 5 years. Right? In that sense, what the competitive just kind of primed my ego. Yeah, I'm in there, right? Now, if you are aware of that energy of oh, my COVID hair. If you are aware of the energy of the competition, but not identified with it, right? It's just the game you happen to be playing right now. That awareness of it is the awake. And now you're free of it. Right? Free doesn't mean it's not there. Free means I'm free no matter what I need to be doing in the moment, no matter what the environment requires of me. And sometimes the environment required gentleness and compassion and sweetness. Other times it's hard ass. It's harsh as it needs to be. It's definitive. It's like, nope, this way it's got to be. Sometimes it's cooperative. Sometimes it's competitive, right? But notice that's just the shifting environment, right? You're aware of the competitive environment, which means you're also aware of the cooperative environment, right? Bring your attention to that which is aware. That's awake. That's free. That which is aware of it is never bound. So it's always free. So it's not like you're staying free, right? You're bringing your attention back to where freedom always is and the recognition you're never anything but free and awake. And awake simply means conscious, right? Even when it appears as you've gone unconscious, there's something aware of you being unconscious, isn't there? This is very subtle, Oz, very subtle. uh, but you ask the question for subtle, right? It's very natural for us to become emotionally involved with what we're doing. Of course, right? I'm emotionally involved now. Look, I'm getting excited about this, right? So you're not just going to sit there and go, oh, everything is just happening and I'm here aware of it. Oh, God, life would suck like that, right? There's the energy, the taste, right? You experience the victory. I always like to use the example, right? You go out to play sports with your friends, I mean, a football game, right? The real football game, right? Not the American football, right? Uh, and when you're playing with your friends, it's a friendly game. You're friends, right? It's fun. But when you're playing to win, aren't you? You're going to kill them, right? And you'll be yelling at each other. You'll be angry, and you get all upset. And then it's all done. Somebody wins. You get to rib each other, make fun of each other, and that sort of thing. You go to the pub. You have a couple of beers, right? And you forget. And it's right. But the game wouldn't be the game if while you were in it, you weren't totally in it, right? If somebody's, oh, it's just a game, I don't remember, and they let the ball go by, right? You're not in it. You're not actually in life. This is not, awakeness is not an escape from life. It is not a withdrawing from life. It is the full emergence into life without identifying with it. You are free to experience it as it is. And after a while, you get tired of the competitive environment. Well, that's just a natural growth, and then that will pass away from you, right? So you don't have to stay free and awake. And of course, it's true. We tend to get kind of mesmerized into this thing, but your natural freedom and awakeness will nudge you on the shoulder so you know, oh, I just fell asleep. I just got totally identified with this. Put a big smile on your face and go back to it. So it's not like you have to try to stay there because falling into that is not a it's not a problem. Awakeness and freedom don't go anywhere. You can't lose them. Okay? You you simply can't lose them. They're the eternal truth. Right? So does that help, Oz? Rita, hello, Rita. Are you familiar with human design? If so, what is your thoughts about it? Um, Not really. I mean, I've seen a little bit, and I've heard the term, uh, but I I honestly couldn't speak to it with any kind of authority. I don't really know enough about it. I'd just kind of be guessing. So I think I'll choose. No, I mean I've heard things like that, and I think it refers to just kind of the consciously trying to re-engineer humans and the mind and all of that kind of stuff, which has got implications on both sides of the coin. I mean, somebody like Elon Musk, who I really respect, right? I mean, I really like what he's doing, and I like his vision. But he also said that if humanity is going to evolve, we're going to have to merge with machines. He wants chips in people, right? Right. That's how we're going to get to the next level. I don't like that. Yeah, I think it's consciousness. I think consciousness is the place to explore, and these other things will kind of follow. But that's the limits of my knowledge about human design. Um, Again, everything is valuable for what it does. The problem is we become slaves to these things, we become dependent on them, we lose ourselves in them, and oftentimes this drive for human improvement, right, completely masks, obscures, and distracts us from self-discovery. The basic assumption of human improvement is that I'm just this blob of matter, and I can improve myself in various ways. There's nothing in it that recognized as an inherent beingness that doesn't need any improving. It's the difference between the spiritual and the material. Dramatic, profound, infinite gap, the infinite schism between the two. So hopefully that helps a little, Rita. Sorry, I couldn't give you a better answer. AGP have the right recipe for sound and video today. Keep it. What are your thoughts on people thinking of someone, a family, and they call ESP or something else? Thanks, Robert. Well, I am going to keep it. I determined obviously that other microphone is no good. I've ordered a new one. It'll be here on Wednesday. So hopefully the satsang after next, I'll have a brand new shiny mic with better quality than this one. Easier to use too for me. Besides, I like my little gadgets. Right now, as far as ESP is a name for they give to something. It really means I don't understand it. Um, Science, traditional materialistic science, dominant science, rejects it because it can't be measured or anything like that. And if a scientist really wants to end his career, all he has to do is say, "I want to study, you know, parapsychology or anything like that." There are a few that have actually investigated into it, um, and and legitimately, like Rupert Sheldrake, uh, marvelous guy. You can look his stuff up on you. He even wrote a book on the ESP of dogs because he did a study with dogs. You know how a dog always knows when its master is coming home. I noticed that when I was living with my son, that minutes before he showed up, the dog was downstairs, and I knew within a minute or two my son was going to come home. Well, they did studies of it, and they thought, well, it's the sound or something like that, but they tried all sorts of different variations on it, where the they'd have they'd have the owner of the dog driving a different car, right? No reaction until he heard him coming. Until he no, sorry, the owner driving a different car, and the dog responded just as if he was in his own car. They put somebody else in the owner's car, no reaction from the dog whatsoever. Right? They tried all sorts of different things, different people in different combinations, and the dog just knew without any physical cues whatsoever. Uh, what is it? We're all one. That body that you call you, this body I'll call me, are simply different condensations of the same essential substance, and it doesn't lose connection with the essential substance just because it condenses into a form. We are one. The boundary between you and me is imagined. It is as imaginary as the boundaries of countries. Go to any country, go to the border, and see if you can find a boundary. There isn't one. They're complete constructs of the mind. We are the same essence. We are the same. We are the same being. It is our shared being. And consciousness condenses into form. That's what it does. And things like extrasensory perception, various kinds of things, near-death experiences, that veil is beginning to fall apart. That's part of the development of consciousness. So it's not ESP. The idea that extrasensory perception assumes that I'm bound by these senses, right? So it'd have to be extrasensory. I'm not bound by the senses. Neither are you. We only think we are. And as that belief crumbles, these things are going to pop up. We're going to, oh, that's so mysterious. Look, something because we're interpreting it from the point of view of being this separate finite self. Right? If you drop that, you realize, oh, of course, it's perfectly natural. I think of someone, they call. Right? Well, why did I think of them? Because they'd already thought of me to call? Or did we both think of it at the same time? And it was just simply life wants to connect us. It's beautiful. Whatever it is, I love it. It works, right? It's just like that connection with people. There's some people, love at first sight or just friends at first sight. There's some people you just say, boom, it's there, right? There's no way to explain that through physical proximity and that like that, or physical attractiveness. Uh, you know, some people you never met, you hear them on the phone, and immediately, boom, you're there, right? This is so much bigger and more interesting and more strange and mysterious than we could possibly imagine. Our little minds want to put everything into a box. It's like, oh, geez, it's beyond that. How do you put the infinite into a box? Yvette, I see it may not be understood by my comments referred to diagnosis like bipolar depression. I've been hospitalized 8 times in 13 years, done everything. It all supported me. Inquiry brings me life. Oh, so good to hear. So good to hear that. And if I didn't quite understand by your comments, I apologize. Referred to diagnosis like bipolar. I hope I didn't sound like I was just dismissing or anything like that, because it's not to be dismissed, but it is to be inquired into. And I love the fact you said inquiry brings me life. Beautiful. Ava, thank you, G. Today I needed this spiritual uplift. So did I. Got it, said Roberto. Completely understood. Perfect. Big thank you from Vanyashi. Always fresh and always astonishing, isn't it, Jay? Yes. Yes. Gee, obviously, I will drop this thought. We're right on my board on the wall. Good. Barbara says, thanks to the answers about zodiac. Suppose it's the same about numerology. Yeah, all of them. Anagrams. It doesn't matter what it is, right? It doesn't matter what it is. They have a certain use, right? But when you're talking about the dawning of the infinite consciousness that you really are, all those other things are lesser. They're just lesser teachings. They're conventions. They're useful for a time, and then they fall away. Because karma, the stars, nothing affects consciousness. It affects everything. It is the source of everything else. So that which is the source is not affected. The source of the river is not affected by what the river does. The source of a fountain is not affected by the fountain. It is absolutely inviolate. Rita says, thank you. Thank you, Rita. Great. Wonderful. Oz, thank you, GP. Your answer addressed my question deeply and clearly. And your COVID hair looks great, in my opinion. Thanks. I was actually keeping it very short before COVID, and all of a sudden, I'm kind of liking it long. I'm kind of liking the whole Moses look, right? Maybe I'll do the Indian guru thing, a big hair and the big beard. Oh, that's too ugly. That's too ugly. Andrea says the dog picks up on the scent of the man. Nope, they're too far away. They pick up before it's even possible for there to be a scent. Right? So that's not it. That was what the study showed. There were no physical cues. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's just stunning. So yes, the dog can pick up on the scent. That's part of it. But they know they're there even if they have no access to them whatsoever. Right? No physical cues. That's what's brilliant. That's what's really brilliant about it. So, Andrea Westlake. Are you new, Andrea? Cool. Yes, it is cool. Your manner and your voice is so calming. It would be so nice to be around people like you. Well, everybody here is people like me. So you're in the great place. Welcome. Yes, great hair. I like it longer as it is. All right, thanks. Thank you, all my fashion consultants. And you're new. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Fantastic. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah. Oh my God, it's been over an hour. I normally don't go this long on the meditations. So, but I will be back tomorrow, of course, for my regular weekly satsang. When satsang is just under YouTube. It's just on YouTube. I don't know why, but I don't put it on Facebook. So, Andrea, and those of you who are here from Facebook, who see me there, just go to YouTube tomorrow. It's at 3:00 Eastern time. I don't know where you live, but 3:00 Eastern in the United States. So I'll be doing this. I do just this for a couple hours every Sunday. Saranda says, I was under the assumption Ramana Maharshi had that surgery under no numbing agent. Yes, that is the story, right? That tried to aggrandize them. But, I heard Dave Godman. Yes, David Godman? Yes, I think it was David Godman, who is the archivist for Ramana Maharshi. He also did a documentary about Papaji and the like, and he said he made it very clear he was not under general anesthetic. He wouldn't let them put him to sleep, but he did take local anesthetic for his operation. That's according to the most reliable source on the subject there is. It became widely spread that he didn't have any anesthetic whatsoever, which would fit. Everybody wants to believe that. He's the great sage and all that stuff, but that's not actually what happened. So yeah. So Andrea, LOL, LOL to you. Obviously more about my hair. Saranda says, this is Jay by the way of my wife's account. Oh, okay. Okay. Andrea says, I was going to look you up on YouTube. Just YouTube/GP Walsh. Very simple. Easy to find. So I've got a whole bunch of videos up here. A lot of the past satsangs. I think we're up to like 65 of these kinds of meditations that are there now. So lots of, that's all under the live category. And I've got other stuff, some that's really old. I look a lot younger 10 years ago. Um, I think that's how long I've been. 2009, I think. So it's been 11 years that I've been doing these YouTube things. So anyway, everybody, it's time. No, it was all over something else, not your hair. Your hair's great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Kuljit says, thank you, G, for making yoga of allowing. Love it. The old one or the new one? The brand new one? The brand new one I haven't even announced. It's available if you've already got a account on the classroom that I have. Um, but I made a whole different series of it. But at any rate, all right, everybody, it's time for me to do something else today. Although this is what I love to do most. I love you all. Thank you. Namaste.